There's a loophole in the extradition treaty which basically says that if it's against the public interest of China to permit the extradition, they can deny it. There's also a second reason that they could deny extradition. Let's say he's arrested for espionage under U.S. espionage laws. Hong Kong doesn't have a comparable espionage law. And usually in an extradition situation, both countries have to have similar kinds of laws indicating that it would be a criminal offense in both countries to engage in the act. And because of an oversight, when people forget about the turnover, at least people in the United States, about the turnover of Hong Kong from the British to the People's Republic, a lot of laws didn't get changed during that turnover, and one of them is this espionage law. So there are some technicalities that could be used to prevent extradition.
All right, so we don't know where he is right now. He apparently checked out of his hotel. Where could he go? I mean, there was some talk about Iceland, but is that really a good choice given their newly elected government that's much more conservative and much closer to Washington?
No, I don't think it would be a good place for him. Frankly, I think Hong Kong probably was an excellent selection if he was trying to avoid U.S. authorities. It's a place where free speech at least has had a grand tradition. It's also because of the problem with China. China may not be eager to assist the United States on this. So I think he's hopeful that the somewhat adversarial relationship that China's had with the United States through the years, I mean, we seem to be a little friendlier in recent months, but there's been a history of problems. So I think Hong Kong was a good choice for him, and he certainly doesn't want to have to live in a place like North Korea, which probably would give him asylum, and there's some other very unpleasant places in the world where you could live, probably where you could go. But I'm not surprised that he picked Hong Kong.
Now, some U.S. lawmakers have been saying that he is a danger, he has harmed national security. What do you make of that, and does that give us some insight into the charges that he's likely to face?
Well, certainly espionage would have to be on the list. He's described in the press, or he's describing himself as being a whistleblower under U.S. law. Now, whistleblowers are people who expose illegality on the part of governments. The Obama administration has taken the position that this surveillance mechanism that was put in place was not illegal. It was essentially approved by Congress, overseen by Congress, and the judiciary is involved. I mean, to explain it in its simplest way, they take all of the data that they pick up from all of the cell companies and they kind of put them all in one big computer, but the government says they don't look at it in terms of what individuals are doing, they just look for patterns. And then when they have a suspect in a criminal case, they go and they get a warrant from a federal judge upon, probable cause or reasonable suspicion, and then they look at the specific information. So they say, hey, we're not violating the constitutional rights of American citizens or of anybody for that matter. We're acting legally under U.S. law. He signed an agreement that he was not to release this kind of information, and it's either an act of espionage or it's a gross dereliction of his duty to the NSA, his employer. So it's a very, very serious case, and he could face very, very serious charges.
So what's interesting is there are those who say, the privacy rights of Americans are being violated, even though you're saying that this was all perfectly legal. But are privacy rights even possible in this age of terrorism and modern technology?
I think that's a great question because technology has taken us to a point, and we were watching the Apple stories you were running earlier. With these technology companies like Apple and Google, so much information about every person who owns a computer is sitting in a database someplace. We've really waived our privacy rights to a large extent by buying into the technology revolution. And the government is almost coming late to the table. I suspect Google knows a lot more about us than the U.S. government. And the U.S. government is saying, hey, we're just being efficient about managing all of this data so that when we get a warrant from a judge, we can find it quickly and move on terrorists. And the need to move quickly on terrorists is very, very important as they get access to viruses and nuclear weapons and heaven knows what else. So I think a lot of people in the U.S. and maybe other places would say, I'll give up a little of my privacy for a little more safety from terrorists. And that's really the debate that's going to be going on in the U.S. and around the world.